Hi, Elizabeth. I went through your calculations, and what I found is you were doing everything correct. Everything was great. The one thing that I calculated differently than you was your p hat here. I think that maybe when you set this up, you had parentheses around the numerator and denominator, but you may have plugged it in your calculator some way so that you weren't getting that correct p hat value. Because then when I plug in that p hat, I am finally getting that 1.73 as the z-score. Now, this is a lot of calculating, and it's a lot of stuff to write out and a lot of stuff to remember. So even when you look at the examples, say you're in MyStatLab and you say, use the help and you look at an example, it will give you these formulas and then it says, and if you use technology, here's what you end up for as an answer. They don't fill out the formula for you because when are we really going to have to go ahead and do this by hand when we do have the technology to help us? So I want to show you how to go ahead and use the tech to really make this a lot easier for you, and your tech will also get to your p-value as well. So let me just go over to StatCrunch here. Now what we're doing is we're running a hypothesis test for this proportion. So we're going to go to Stat, you're going to go to Proportion Stats, and we have two samples here. We don't have the data, we have the summary. We have x1, x2, n1, n2. So you're going to click with summary. And here's where we put in our things for our samples. So our number of successes is 124 for the first sample, whereas the observations was 242. The number of successes in the second sample was 135, and your number of observation was 308. Now, here's where it's going to change your p-value depending on what you choose. I don't know if this was a less than problem, a greater than problem, or a not equal to problem, because I don't have your Ask My Instructor. But just I can show you with all of them and kind of how it changes. So with not equal to, for example, I'll just click compute, and you can see that it's still giving me the z-stat, and the p-value it's giving me is 0.084. Okay, now if I go back and I change that to, let's say, greater than or less than, we'll do less than, and I click compute, is this going to change my p-value? So here it's 0.958 if I have the less than, and if I edit it to the greater than and click compute, I get 0.042. And that's because the p-value is dependent on the area under the curve for alpha. And it's whether you're dealing with a less than problem, a greater than problem, or a not equal to problem, that's going to change. Now, this will get you your p-value depending on your symbol. If you want me to show you how to get your p-value by hand, just let me know. It does have to do with looking at the tables, your Z or T scores, and it's really not that difficult, but if your tech can get it for you, it's kind of nice to use that as well. So let me know if you do want to see that, and I can totally help you do that.